Hello. I'm going to be talking to you about farmer clusters and landscape scale conservation and collaboration. I go to a lot of seminars and I think, who is that talking? So I thought maybe I might do a little bit of background. So my name is Megan Locke. I am a trained ecologist. I left school and I studied agriculture first and then went on to countryside management. I left and worked for a while and then I decided I needed to get a degree. So I headed to Sparsholt College and I got a degree in ecology and conservation. I've always specialised in agroecology, landscape scale conservation. As Keith said, 70% of Hampshire and 70% of this country is farmed. So that is a big opportunity where we can put conservation onto farmland. I've worked for various organisations in my career. I've done most of the acronyms now. So National Trust, Natural England and CLA, but always within the same sector, mainly in advisory. But I decided, after having my child, I needed to get my boots muddy again. So I went and I now work for GWCT as the Farmland Biodiversity Advisor. I work within the advisory team in the South East. I'm the national lead for farmer clusters, and I am the facilitator for Allenford and Martindown Farmer Cluster. So I'm hoping some of you might know what a farmer cluster is, but if you don't, it's a group of like-minded farmers who work together to deliver collectively more for soil, water and wildlife at a landscape scale. They're designed to start life at the bottom up. They're farmer-led. They're led by farmers for farmers. And they're assisted by a conservation advisor, a facilitator like me. So the concept was developed by GWCT with Natural England back in 2012 after the formation of the Marlborough Downs Nature Improvement Area. And from that, 5 pilot farmer clusters were developed. From that, we're looking at now, over 170 of these farmer groups are now in the country. So to set up a farmer cluster, basically a lead farmer comes in and he or her invites their neighbours. They get together down the pub generally, decide their aims and objectives, and then choose a facilitator and then figure out how on earth they're going to fund it. But as the lead for farmer clusters within my organisation, I get asked a lot, how do I set up my farm cluster? What should I do? How should I do it? And my question always is, what wildlife do you want to see on your farm that you either used to see or want to see back on your farm or to have it on your farm? And here's just some of the examples, the answers I get. But also, they need to take into consideration what species are declining in the area. Are you looking to do some community outreach? What are the priorities in the area through countryside stewardship? Have you got any designated sites? Have you got any existing data? Have you got any volunteers doing BTO squares on your farm? Or is there anyone doing butterfly surveys? Is there anything that you can draw in? And the way to fund these are through generally two or three ways. It's either through countryside stewardship, through the facilitation funding, which unfortunately is not now available. But it was competitive. You had to have over 2,000 hectares of contiguous land, and the facilitator had to onerously document timesheets, progress reports, and work plans. Or you could go independently, have a bit more flexibility, and you can control over your own aims and objectives. And you can start your farm cluster with a baseline survey, which isn't funded through countryside stewardship, nor is ongoing surveys or monitoring. But if you're independently funded, you can do that yourself. I do one-to-one advice with the farmers. I source private funding, and you can also have more time with your advisor. You can also get funding through getting contributions from your farmers per hectare, or you can go to water companies or company sponsorships to be able to fund these groups, or through natural capital funding and charitable trust donations. So just to give you a bit of a context where my farmer cluster is, the little star is where we are, in Winchester. And I'm going to be talking to you about Martindown Farmer Supercluster, but specifically Martindown Farmer Cluster. So the supercluster is the only one in the country. It covers 236 square kilometres. It's 3/4 of the size of the Isle of Wight. It ranges from Salisbury to Shaftesbury to Cranbourne, and it halos the Martindown National Nature Reserve, which I'm sure you all know where that is. And their main aims, collectively, these independent farmer clusters have the same aim, so to protect and enhance the threatened wildlife of the National Nature Reserve, to protect and extend and monitor the characteristic wildlife species on arable farmland, and to establish links from the Martindown out into the farmland. So Martindown was established in 2016. It's got 16 contiguous farms, which are either arable, dairy or mixed, with some woodland. It covers 5,500 hectares. Martindown National Nature Reserve is 350 hectares. It covers over Hampshire and Dorset, and it's farmer-led. They're definitely in the driving seat. The priorities of the habitats were formed when were decided at the beginning of the farm cluster, and there's a big emphasis on long-term study and monitoring, and they pay for their farm cluster themselves. And I get it repeated back to me all the time by my farmers. Data is key, so go and get those surveys done. So our priorities are so the Martindown Farmer Cluster has their own priorities. So it's creating connecting habitats, extending the chalk downland from the NNR, and soil health. And also we have a range of species as well. As you can imagine, turtle doves is definitely at the top of our list, but also a lot of other farmland birds like lapwing, corn bunting, grey partridge, a number of butterflies, a small blue, especially Duke of Burgundy, and some fritillaries, and also arable plants, orchids, and swift swallows and house martins are our new one. So how is this funded? So the farmers pay a £2 per hectare contribution annually. The GWCT has a charitable trust owner who gives a large sum of money every year just for my role for Martindown Farmer Cluster. I'm employed by GWCT, and a big chunk of my time is for the Farmer Cluster. And I also find pots of money here, there and everywhere to top it up with project grants. So the general activity of a farmer cluster, well, ours specifically, is training, workshops and farm visits. I support the farmers with their stewardship applications and other funding opportunities. I do 90% of the survey and monitoring myself. Do a lot of social events, regular meetings and public relations. So as I said, data is key, and before you start any project, baseline surveys are really important so you can monitor how you're doing, the successes. As you can see, the small little map down here at the bottom, this is the cluster. It's got 1 km squares. Within each one of those squares has got transect lines for the following species here for wider countryside butterfly surveys and pollard, bumblebee, corn bunting, and hedgehogs and reptiles as well. We put out our sheets on within the transects as well. So you can see there's quite a lot going on. There's 16 surveys done, and they're not all done annually. Some are, like the butterflies and bumblebees and the corn buntings, but some are done every other year or every 3 years. But as was previously said, the weather was really awful last year, so the data is a bit skewed, unfortunately, for last year. So this is what I've got coming up ahead for me this year. 24 butterfly surveys, 2 landscape scale pollard surveys, which are walked monthly from April to September. And I've got a lovely bunch of volunteers that do that who are very experienced. The farmers put out reptile mats on their farms, and they're checked during spring, summer and autumn. And I've been given some very appreciatively help from HOS to undertake some corn bunting surveys. So the volunteers are going to come and help me to do those surveys this year. Grey partridge surveys are done in spring and autumn over each farm. And barn owl boxes are checked, ringed, and we are doing some radio tracking as well. It's really interesting to see that the barn owls are actually using all of the countryside stewardship options across the farmland, like a railway. So that was a really interesting study. We also do harvest mice this year, arable flora, bumblebee, turtle dove survey, and swift box monitoring. So what have we achieved so far? The farmers have created over 100 hectares of new habitat since 2017. That's either by taking land out of production, so not putting a crop on it, or through stewardship where there are areas that were less productive. So they've put in species-rich flower margins, beetle banks, arable reversion, nectar flower mixes, and butterfly banks. And we're now mapping the whole farmer cluster again this year on a new platform, and we're going to see where we've got more opportunities to put even more of these things in. But all of this is connected across farm to farm. There is no boundary now as we see it, and nature knows no boundary. We've also had countless training days. We've created 20, we call them turtle dove splashes, but little ponds and puddles and drinkers for turtle doves on a chalk landscape, so water is vitally important. We've created 7 new lined ponds. We do supplementary feeding across all of the cluster. We have 5 new beetle banks, 6 kilometres of hedgerows. They have nesting harvest mice on every single farm. The GWCT do undertake all the barn owl box ringing and monitoring. And we have 5 new big butterfly banks and smaller ones. And a lot of the farms are now going towards regenerative agricultural practices. And a great number of them are now either not using insecticides or greatly reducing it. We also have raised some money for the NNR. We got planning permission for 2 huge butterfly banks, which were plug planted with kidney vetch and sown with other chalk downland species. The farmers have all got an app on their phone called Choreo, so they can record species while they're out in the field. And we're part of an improving fallow plots for breeding lapwing project, which is from Naturalinger but being run by GWCT. I can see the chap over there who's doing that project. And also there's a rewilding project on the farm cluster as well. But my most favourite project was last year, was working with Hampshire Swift, with Tim Norris and Roger. And I found some external funding to get Swift boxes put up on nearly all of the farms across Allenford and Martindown. It was the idea of the farmers. We both noticed through doing breeding bird surveys, and also the farmers themselves noticed that swifts were absent from the landscape. It wasn't to do with the lack of insects, which we know. It's more to do with the lack of nesting opportunities. With red tractor, a lot of buildings need to be watertight, vermin-tight, so there's no crevices or holes. So we managed to put up nest boxes and coolers on 99% of all the farms. And also, another interesting thing was that we had a thatched house. One of the farmhouses had a large colony of breeding swifts, and that was the first noted breeding colony in a thatched house in Hampshire. So that was really cool to find that out. So turtle doves, we have got turtle doves on the farmer cluster. We have 5 of the farms have regular visitors. We are the most westerly range of turtle doves, and they are hanging on. It's not inherently to do with the habitat itself, that is there. We provide supplementary feeding, water supplies. We do undertake predator control during the nesting season to try and help them. And there is foraging. Land is taken out of production is cultivated for arable plants, so they could come and feed on the fumitory and other species there. But sadly, over the kind of last 4 years, I have noticed a decline. and it has got a bit quiet. But hopefully this June, when we do our turtle dove census, we're hoping to hear a few more. So as I said, that we have put a lot of water sources out on the cluster. They need that to provide crop milk for their young. And we do monitor them with trail cameras. So it's really interesting to see how many are used. But it's not just turtle doves that come and use them regularly. It's nice to see other species as well within the farm landscape using them. And it's just like the highlight of the farmer's day is to see what they've got on their farm. A little green shank, so in the middle of a chalk downland. And even green veins, and lots of fallow. As I said earlier, grey partridges are one of our priority species. I'm really pleased this is working. So I did some drone filming of how we undertake our grey partridge counts. As you all know, grey partridges are a red-listed species. They're in a steep decline, and that's generally linked with intensification of agriculture. They're a short-lived species, they're sedentary, they are strategists, but they're susceptible massively to predation and have really bad chick survival due to extreme weather conditions. Within the farmer cluster, we all go out and do grey partridge counts. That is fed into the grey partridge count scheme, and that data then nationally is fed into GWCT, which is analysed, and then each farm gets a report back out. But as a farmer cluster, we feel it's really important that we monitor, and it's good for the farmers to go out and do their own counts because it gives them the connection to their own land. So this is just a short video of me going out with one of the gamekeepers to do a count. You can see that was quite a good year actually. That was last year. So here is some graphs. It doesn't look great, but these are average pair densities over 5,000 hectares. And it is citizen science. So if we've had a poor spring and the farmers are trying to go out to do their spring drilling, they're not going to prioritise doing their grey partridge counts over getting out. If it's too wet, they can't get out on the land. So I've done an average here. So the autumn pairs are a better measure of population numbers. So the chicks, with the autumn counts, it's a breeding success. And then you can see what is either lost to weather or predation. However, the spring counts do look great, but they are less of an indication of how the population is doing. But the net numbers are relatively sustainable, and it is a national trend that the numbers of grey partridges are generally not doing very well. However, we are doing so much to try and make sure that they hang on where we are. We undertake barn owl monitoring. So since 2018, the number of barn owl boxes have increased from 10 to 34. And through the Owl Box initiative led by GWCT and self-funded by the farmers, we have 30% of those boxes are regularly occupied. And the average success during that time period is 78%. And that's fledging at least one chick. Corn buntings are the little fat sparrows of arable land. Again, within those squares there are transect lines. We started surveying them in 2017 and had a marked 120% increase on corn buntings. This again was citizen science, so we've had a couple of years where we just haven't managed to get out. COVID got in the way, but we're going to reinvigorate those surveys this year. Butterflies are doing particularly, they did well for the first 4 years. We've had some extreme weather systems between the fifth and sixth year, where it was a really cold spring and then a scorching hot summer, which then killed all the vegetation and all of the butterflies. And then this is key, that all of this is then fed back and is positive feedback and encouragement. So the farmers are really get so excited about what they see, and them doing their own surveys is a great way for them to be invested. And it gives them so much pride and also competition. The WhatsApp group is nuts whenever like, I've got more barn owls than you, or no, I've got a turtle dove, I bet you haven't got one. So yeah, they just love it. And I think that farmers really do get a bad reputation of not really caring about what's on their land. And I see the complete opposite. And I've been working with farmers for 20 years. And I can tell you it's not like that at all on the ground. And I think it's also really important when we're getting the younger generation to come in, and when we're doing an owl box, to come and have a look. And bottom one there, I go out and do a corn bunting survey with Kath there. Oh, and these farmers are all generally on their own, and it's a good way for them to come out of their farms and come and socialise and to share knowledge and share ideas. We also engage with a wider audience. We've got Tony Juniper there on the far left, and Minette Butters, who was the president of the NFU, and our outgoing CEO in the middle, who retired yesterday. But we also have a presence on social media. I do a lot of radio and articles. We've been on Countryfile. We've had some lovely feedback from Natural England. I did a walk on the NNR with Sir John Lawton, so it was great to show him bigger, better, more joined up, and to say that back to him. And we were also mentioned on Springwatch earlier last year. But this keeps going back to the farmer. These two in particular have a great open gate, farm gate policy. Farmer clusters work because we work together. It's collaborative working. And they're always really happy for me to show this, they're standing on their butterfly bank, which is absolutely jam-packed with kidney vetch, and the pond that they put behind for the turtle doves. And we bring out new potential clusters to come and have a look around. We've given talks to the young farmers. I feel like I need to pay back Sparshot for where they've got me in my career, so I've gone into and given lectures, and their students come out to me. Why is it jumping around? Open Farm Sunday, and this guy loves to turn up when I'm out doing walks. So it's always a real highlight. So it's no wonder these groups are popping up all over the place. It's an enhanced funding opportunity through countryside stewardship and SFI. It's ownership to the farmers, it's peer supported, it's an exchange of ideas and knowledge between the farmers and competition. It's market intelligence and training and access to advice. And the funders are approaching us because they know that we can deliver at a landscape scale, not just a small little island. We want to connect to bigger habitats across her landscape. And also through natural capital trades, the Environmental Farmers Group is now covering 3% of this country, with collaborative farmers coming together and trading natural BNG. And here is just a snapshot. Over the Avon catchment alone, 70,000 hectares is covered by a farmer cluster, and outside of it's growing. So there's not much white space now. And final thoughts. This is Rob. He was delighted when he got hedgehogs on his farm, as you can see. So these farmer clusters work because farmers are in the driving seat, and apparently I'm the gears. Farmers, they're more likely to deliver these ambitious pieces of work if they have an active stake and are well supported and funded, because you can't farm in the green if you're in the red. So farmers understand they need to engage with communities, and the confidence is growing. They want to do more, but they need to be able to do more. And knowledge is power. Data is key. Surveying and positive feedback is a catalyst for them to do more. Thank you very much.